What will the Denver Broncos do in NFL free agency as it pertains to some of their players on offense that are in-house? Will they hit the free agency market, or will the Broncos bring some of their key players back? That's one of the conversations we're going to have on today's segment of Good Morning Broncos as the offseason continues here. Denver's going to have some tough decisions, and we're all awaiting what's going to happen with Russell Wilson. Is Denver going to move on from him? Is another team potentially going to be interested in signing for him or trading for him? How might that impact the Broncos salary cap? There's so many different things that are on the table here for George Paton, for Sean Payton, and the Broncos as free agency approaches. Now, folks, free agency will happen on March 13th. That's when the new league year rolls around. And as General Manager George Paton told us last week, one of the things he mentioned specifically is we're not going to be very active during the first wave of free agency. And I know that's going to be a little bit of a pain point here for Broncos country, but I think he's got a point here. Denver doesn't have to necessarily go out, and Denver's not going to be in a position to go out and spend a lot of money right away. They're going to have to focus, I think, priority number one, who are some in-house guys we have to take care of that are part of Sean Payton's vision going forward, whether it's on the offense, whether it's on the defense. That's a big conversation here. And this segment is obviously brought to you by our friends over there at Superbook Sports. Superbook Sports is changing the game. Win some money this season with Superbook Sports, the most trusted name in sports gambling with a direct line to Las Vegas. And now when you use promo code MILEHIGH, you score up to $250 with their first bet bonus, whether you win or lose. Superbook will match your first bet up to $250 with promo code MILEHIGh. Download the Superbook Sports app, enter promo code MILEHIGh. You'll get $250 courtesy of Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER here. So let's first off take a look here at the Broncos offensive free agents here in 2024, looking at the in-house options that they have. And probably the biggest name here for the Broncos is, are they going to bring back center Lloyd Cushenberry? This is a great question, right? And Lloyd Cushenberry, obviously, there was a lot of expectation. There was a lot of excitement for him when he was drafted in the 2020 NFL draft out of LSU, just coming off of, a year where they win the national championship. He's snapping to Joe Burrow. He's deemed as one of the most high IQ centers in the draft that year. And look, I think that still remains to be true. Lloyd Cushenberry's football IQ is very, very high. Now, through the first couple years of his career, he's had some limitations at the NFL level from a physical standpoint, right? We talk about physical strength. There were a lot of times he got pushed back early on in his rookie season, his second year. And so Denver wasn't necessarily sure about his trajectory. They liked Lloyd. They wanted Lloyd to be part of the mix, but there were questions about whether or not his fit within the offense was sustainable for what they needed to center position going in long term. And every offseason, whether it be free agency or whether it be in the NFL draft, Denver brought in somebody to compete with Lloyd Cushenberry, and Cushenberry always came out on top. So I think that's important to highlight here. Now, I think the conversation here about Lloyd Cushenberry, I asked Broncos Country this on social media the other day, should they bring him back? There were a lot of fans that said, yes, bring Cush back. There were a lot of fans, it was kind of split 50-50 that said, no, don't bring him back. He's not good. I think that's a lie. Like, folks, if you look at Lloyd Cushenberry from his rookie season to now, every single year over year, he showed drastic improvement in Denver's offensive scheme, and he got better individually as a player. 2023 was Lloyd Cushenberry's best season as a pro. And look, I think so many people are fixated on the mindset when it comes to player development, when it comes to how an NFL player should be. They think that they should be stars. They should be impact, like great players right away. Like, it takes time. There's development. Most players in the NFL, outside of the anomaly superstars, most players go through phases of development. And I think that gets ignored so much because we see the flash, we see the pizzazz by so many different players around the NFL that it sets these expectations. Well, this guy's got to be this good right away. Like, no, it's progression and development is never just a straight line. It is up and down. It's peaks and valleys. Lloyd Cushenberry went through that. And I think overall this year in pass protection, run blocking, he was demonstrably better than he has been his entire career. He's one of the Broncos' best offensive linemen. I think you make the argument between him and Quinn Miners as the best offensive lineman on the team. That's what we saw here in 2023. Now, the question is, with him set to become a free agent, what does that look like here for Denver? What does that look like for Cushenberry? Some of the estimated price range in terms of being what he's going to be eligible for an extension in terms of $10 million per year or up to $13 million per year. I don't know if Denver can do that, especially considering some of the other needs that they have. And I think George Payton's comments were very interesting last week, where he said, he was talking about the rookie class. He said, we view Alex Forsythe, we view him as a starting center in the NFL. So at this point, if 10 million, 13 million is too much for the Broncos, regardless of whatever financial state they're going to be in, pending the Russell Wilson contract and what's going to happen if they move on, more than likely Cushenberry is going to be gone here. But I think that he took necessary strides forward in his development. I personally believe that if Denver thinks that he's going to be a valuable fit to what they want to do in the future, you find a way to bring him back. You have to find a way to keep your good players, your young players that you have focused on developing specifically. Cushenberry fits that bill here. Now, there's some other offensive free agents that Denver's going to have here. They don't have a lot this year, which is kind of a blessing in disguise. And they have a couple of role players that are set to become free agents that weren't necessarily starters. Veteran offensive tackle Cam Fleming. Tongue-tied there, folks. He is set to become a free agent. Obviously, he's going to be preparing for his 11th season in the National Football League. The team decided to bring him back, right before training camp last year, really towards the end of that OTA period where he needed to get in shape. And so they brought him back. And obviously he stepped in for the Broncos when Mike McGlinchey got hurt at right tackle. Obviously in that game against the Chargers, he went in and filled in there. The last game of the regular season against the Raiders, he got the start at right tackle. And he did pretty solid, right? And I think that's the thing you're going to get from him. He's not going to be a guy that's going to cost you a lot of money, right? So if you believe that you need a veteran presence in terms of offensive tackle depth, I think the good sign here was that Denver, until that last game of the regular season, they had the same starting offensive line from left tackle to right tackle across the board. That's what you want. That's great. So now if Denver's comfortable with that and what they've got in place with Bo Lowry, the VP of Player Health and Performance, now the question is, okay, do you believe that behind Garrett Bowles and Mike McGlinchey, do you need a veteran guy like Cam Fleming, or are you okay with rolling with like these young developmental guys like undrafted rookie free agent tackle Alex Palczewski, or even Demontre Jacobs, who was on the practice squad and was with the team all throughout training camp last year? Do you want to maybe develop these guys further and see if they might be able to step into the role of being a tackle in the event there's an injury or something happens to one of your starters? I don't think that Cam Fleming will be back here for the Broncos in 2024, though if something were to happen during OTAs, during training camp, or if there were, I don't know, if they moved on from Garrett Bowles, which some people have talked about, that could be a possibility this offseason, then maybe I think Denver could bring Cam Fleming back into the mix here. Now, I think a guy that I would love to see back in Denver, you don't see this position as much in most NFL offenses, but the fullback position is very important for what Sean Payton wants to do, especially if he really envisions Denver getting back to running the football. That was something they didn't do well enough this season. Running the football, they didn't have a single 1,000-yard rusher. This year, they didn't have a single 100-yard rushing game by a running back at all in 2023. That's got to change here. But a big proponent of that's going to be Michael Burton in terms of what he's able to do. Not only does he have an impact for Denver's offense as an extra blocker, as a guy that can help you. I thought he did a really terrific job this year in that department. He even had a couple of key first down pickups for you in the rushing game himself as a fullback. But I think the thing that also he gives you value with is special teams. You get high effort, high energy type plays from him. I mean, a little Jordan Humphreys catch against the Chargers. I mean, Michael Burton starts it behind the line of scrimmage, gets all the way downfield, that extra effort blocking. Like, that's the stuff that Sean Payton loves. And I'm going to do a sit down with Michael Burton here soon on the Lockdown Broncos podcast. And I think it's one of the things to highlight here. Like, the fullback position is changing so much in today's NFL. You see teams go more empty looks. You still need a fullback. And I think Sean Payton believes that. I think Michael Burton, you have to find a way to bring him back. I don't think he's going to cost you an arm and a leg to bring back either way here. And then obviously I think one of the more important positions that Denver has to look at this entire offseason is going to be tight end. Obviously, Adam Troutman set to become a free agent. Denver traded for him in the NFL draft last year with the New Orleans Saints. They kind of really just swapped the pick where they're at just to get Troutman. And Troutman, in my opinion, is a reliable option for you, right? He's not the most athletic. He's not the fastest or the tallest, but if you need a reliable pass-catching tight end option, he is one of those guys. But Denver's route concepts offensively have to be able to put a guy like Troutman in a position to succeed, not just block the edge guy, chip 1,001, release to the flat, catch it in the flat, and then get 2 to 3 yards. Troutman's got size, right? And one thing that frustrated me from watching this team this year was that Denver, often at times, they would not run route concepts where it's like, hey, if you're Adam Troutman, why don't you block 1,001, release vertically, and then run a hitch at 5 to 6 yards. Use your big body size to box out a smaller defender or a safety, catch it at 5 to 6, and okay, hey, look, now you got a 2nd and 4. You got a 2nd and 5 coming up. It's more manageable for you. And we didn't see enough of that here for Denver's offense. I think so much of Denver's struggles offensively as well. They put a lot of the eggs into the Greg Dulcich basket. Didn't play a single game for them realistically. Didn't play a full game for them. Played a quarter and then played, I think maybe a couple of plays in that Kansas City game on Thursday Night Football. And then unfortunately just couldn't return from the injury. Had the hamstring. Then he had the foot injury. And it's going to be a big year for Greg coming up in 2024. But Denver can't go into this upcoming season, thinking that Greg Dulcich is going to be fully healthy when the sample size indicates something else, that he hasn't been able to stay healthy. It's unfortunate, but Adam Trautman is at least a veteran, reliable option. And we all know Sean Payton's got trust in some of the guys that he's coached. I think that Trautman will be back by default of Sean Payton. But Broncos country, that'll round out our offensive free agent preview here for the team. The new league year kicks off on March 13th. You can get more insight, more recap, and tomorrow's GMB. We're going to take a look at the Broncos' defensive in-house free agents. Who should they take a look at bringing back? Who might they move on from? What are going to be some of the biggest needs for them? You'll get all that on tomorrow's brand new installment of Good Morning Broncos.